Does a memory B cell even work? How does it know that it's supposed to be a memory B cell? How does it know that it's supposed to wake up next time and do a certain thing? How does it know these things? These are fascinating questions that we don't have very good answers to.
This is Josh Koenig, an immunologist in McMaster University's Department of Medicine. But what is immunology and why is it important?
Immunology is the study of our immune system. It's, kind of more specifically the study of a collection of really interesting cells, our immune cells, and actually in these days even extending beyond just our immune cells, and how they basically regulate every function that we have. So if there's a disease, the immune system's involved in it. You think any disease you want. Oh, what about depression? Nope, macrophages are involved in depression. Every single thing you can possibly think of. And in fact, I might even go as far as to say there isn't really any biological function, I don't know, maybe no biological function that doesn't involve the immune system. So why is it important, I think, is kind of answered by the first part of that, which is it's so deeply integral to everything that makes our body do what our body does that we need to understand it. So some people will say, okay, but you can't live without a liver. Sure, but that's one organ. The immune system is in all of your organs. It's everywhere, and it's keeping you alive all the time.
Clearly, immunological research is important, but research is always consequential, yet rarely communicated well. Why do we need to prioritize accessible science?
I love this stuff. I think it's the coolest thing in the world, and if you think it's the coolest thing in the world, is your response to be like, okay, and so the macrophage does phagocytosis, and phagocytosis is what kills. No, right? If you're excited about something, you're excited about that thing and you want to talk about it, right? But also the immune system. Eddie Young won the Pulitzer Prize, or I think it's Pulitzer Prize, during the pandemic for his coverage of the coronavirus. And he was asked by his editor, can you write something that is an explainer on immunology to a lay audience? And he went, no. And then he said, immunology is one of the hardest biological disciplines out there. It's so exceedingly complex. It's way too hard. And that is true and not true. Immunology is really hard, but it's not. It's awesome. It's really cool. There's a lot of simple things, and I think the worst part and the thing that kicks the most people out of immunology is just not having the opportunity to learn it in a way that is exciting. And so, the 2 office hours a week, I've been told by people, that's not a very sustainable way to be a professor, and it's a lot of time and a lot of energy. But folks like you, folks like other people who came, it really fuels me to see people learning about this for the first time, and getting to discover. It's like the first time you watch the movie that you love the most, where you're like, that was so cool. You get to watch people do that as they learn about the immune system, and the impact of students will be way higher than anything that I personally do.
Effective science communication hinges on the remarkable research conducted by experts like Dr. Koenig, whose recent discovery of a new population of cells known as type 2 memory B cells, or MBC2s, has opened new frontiers. Let's delve into his groundbreaking work.
So it wasn't just me, that's what I want to say right off the bat. But secondly, how do we find these things? We started at a very simple level, and I think it's one of the most important things in science is to ask simple questions. And the simple question that we had was basically, is there a type of memory B cell that is allergic? And our dream was, how we were going to do this was we were going to do a bunch of single cell sequencing, which basically means we take a bunch of memory B cells and we sequence each one separately, and then we can see all 10,000 whatever products they make. And then we can cluster them using computation to figure out what are the different types of memory B cells you have. And what we thought was going to happen was that in allergic people, we'd see this type that just wasn't present in non-allergic people. And we'd be like, oh, that's the allergy cell, right? But that didn't happen at all. We looked, and everybody has a set of these basically 20-ish groupings of memory B cells, but everybody has them, right? And so we were like, oh, okay, well that didn't go the way we wanted it to. But as we started to analyze this data more, we found this group of cells that had certain products that it made that are associated with allergy, that are very what we call type 2 immune or allergic. And we started looking at this and we're like, hey, these are pretty distinct. They look like a different type of cell. They haven't been described before. And they look pretty allergic. And I think the reason they hadn't been described before is because we were the people that looked. Other people have sequenced these cells before, and you can look in their data sets and find them. But nobody looked at it and went, that's probably interesting, until the allergy people started looking at it and said, that looks interesting. So then, from there, we did a bunch of other stuff where we found that in allergic people, their allergen-specific memory B cells were all this type 2 memory B cell. And then we were able to actually show that in allergic people, when they experience their allergen, these memory B cells are related to the IgE-producing cells, and IgE is the allergic antibody. So we kind of discovered this new population, then we found a role for this population of cells, which was basically keeping the memory of an IgE response and ultimately keeping people allergic over time.
So why is this newsworthy?
I think why this has taken up so much traction is a few things. One, the allergic community never gets any news because there's not very many people that are doing this, right? So when we make a big advance like this, I think there's, affects 10% of people, food allergy, 25% of people up to have seasonal allergies. It's a lot of people that don't get good news.
But does that mean we'll start to see medication or even an end to allergies soon?
Well, we published it 3 weeks ago. So at this point, no. In the future, almost certainly. What I can say is we know of colleagues in industry who have certain therapies that they have been working on. And in light of what we have found, they are now considering those therapies for food allergy. And that's exactly what you want. You want to find something that people go, based on the features of this thing, we think that our therapy can intervene right here. And so we're going to put that into trials and see if it has an impact. And maybe it will.
While many questions remain surrounding the origins of MBC2s, their exact role in propagating allergies, and the specific treatments that can come out of this, it is so exciting to be able to watch such amazing advances in real time. A big thank you goes out to Dr. Koenig for taking time out of his busy schedule to share his lab's incredible research with us. We can't wait to see all that they accomplish in the future.